The restraining order hearing is in 6 hours. My wife will stand in front of a judge and call me a monster. She has no idea I've seen the footage. I'm sitting in my father's office, my office now, holding the brass pocket watch he gave me 3 years ago. It ticks softly in my palm, steady and certain. The engraving on the back reads, "To Robert, time reveals everything. Dad." I run my thumb over the worn metal. He was right about that. Time did reveal everything, just not the way I expected. There's a manila folder on the desk, 47 pages of surveillance reports, 16 video files, text message transcripts from a burner phone, bank statements, access logs from our factory floor showing entries at 2 a.m., my wife's fingerprints on equipment she had no business touching. In 6 hours, Katherine walks into court with her fake domestic violence journal and her carefully practiced testimony. Her lawyer will present me as dangerous, unstable, a man who needs to be kept away from his own son. She's been building this case for months. Anonymous police reports, always withdrawn before investigation, creating a pattern, setting the trap. She has no idea the trap was already sprung. 6 months ago, I thought my wife loved me. Now I know exactly when that changed. 3 years earlier, I stood at my father's graveside and watched 200 people pay their respects. Thomas Chambers had built Chambers Precision, manufacturing from nothing. Started in a garage in 1963, grew it into the finest precision parts manufacturer in the tri-state area. 60 years of reputation, 50 loyal employees, contracts with aerospace companies, medical device manufacturers, automotive suppliers. When he shook your hand, you knew the deal was solid. When he made you a promise, he kept it. Cancer took him in 8 weeks, pancreatic. The diagnosis came in March. By May, he was gone. At the funeral, he'd been gone 3 days, and I still couldn't process it. Katherine stood beside me in a black dress, her hand on my arm. "He was so proud of you," she whispered. "You're going to do amazing things with the company." Derek Sullivan stepped up next, my college roommate, my business partner for the past 5 years, the man my father had trusted like a second son. Derek handled the business operations while I focused on engineering and client relationships. We were a team, brothers, really. "We'll keep your father's dream alive, brother," Derek said, pulling me into a hug. His voice cracked with emotion. "I promise you, we'll make him proud." Katherine smiled at him over my shoulder, warm, grateful. I didn't see it then, the way her hand lingered when Derek steadied her, the way they stood just slightly too close when they thought no one was watching, the way they'd already stopped pretending to be strangers. After the service, my father's lawyer handed me an envelope. Inside was the pocket watch and a short note. "Robert, you're ready. Trust your instincts. The good ones always reveal themselves in time. Love, Dad." I held that watch and made a silent promise. I would honor everything he built. I would protect his legacy. I would make him proud. Derek put his hand on my shoulder. Katherine smiled at him. I didn't see it then. The first year after Dad died, business was strong, orders were steady. The employees rallied around me. They'd known me since I was a kid running around the factory floor. George Miller, our senior machinist who'd worked with my father for 30 years, made sure production stayed flawless. We landed a major contract with a medical device company in Boston. $2.3 million over 18 months. My father would have been proud. Katherine seemed supportive. She'd come to the factory sometimes, bring lunch, chat with the staff. She'd always been charming. That's what attracted me to her in the first place. Law school graduate, sharp mind, quick smile. We got married 4 years ago. Our son Ethan was born a year later. But somewhere in that first year, something shifted. She started working late. Consulting projects, she said. Her phone was always face down on the table. When I'd walk into a room, she'd close her laptop quickly. "Just boring legal stuff," she'd say. Derek was around more too, helping with late-night strategy sessions. "You're carrying too much, Rob," he'd say. "Let me handle the operational headaches. You focus on the engineering." It made sense. I was grieving. The company needed attention. Derek had an MBA from a good school. My father had trusted him. So, I trusted him too. Then the accident started. 13 months after the funeral, we had our first quality control failure. A batch of precision components, ordered for surgical instruments, failed inspection. The tolerances were off by microns, but in our business, microns matter. We couldn't deliver. The contract was worth $180,000. We had to eat the cost and scramble to remake everything. I spent 3 days analyzing what went wrong. The CNC machine that produced the parts was calibrated perfectly. The raw materials were certified. The operator was one of our most experienced guys. None of it made sense. "Bad luck," Derek said, reviewing the reports with me at midnight in the conference room. "It happens, man. Even with the best systems, sometimes shit breaks." But it didn't feel like bad luck. It felt wrong. Katherine texted me at 6:15 p.m. that night. "Already ate dinner, don't wait up." I got home at 8:30. The kitchen was dark. Her laptop was closed on the counter. When I opened it to check our family calendar, it required a password. It never had before. "Just got some private client files," she explained later. "Attorney-client privilege stuff. You understand?" I did understand. I was probably being paranoid. Stress does that. But I started keeping the watch in my pocket, holding it during meetings, feeling its weight, listening to it tick. Year 2 was worse. 3 major disasters in 8 weeks. First, a shipment of raw aluminum arrived with incorrect specs, cost us $90,000 and a 3-week production delay. Then, our main CNC machine developed a mysterious electrical problem that killed a $200,000 contract with an automotive supplier. Then, a clerical error resulted in a double payment to a vendor, $75,000 wired out, impossible to recover. Our cash reserves were bleeding. I was working 16-hour days trying to keep contracts alive, maintain quality, and figure out what the hell was happening. Derek was always there, supportive, concerned, helping me review every system, every process. "I think you need to consider something," he said one night, both of us exhausted in my office. "The stress is affecting your judgment. You're making small mistakes, forgetting to follow up on emails, signing documents without reading them carefully. I'm worried about you, brother." He was right. I was forgetting things, missing details. My father had run this company with military precision. I was letting it crumble. "What if I took on power of attorney for business decisions?" Derek suggested. "Just temporary, while you get your head straight. I can make the day-to-day calls, keep things stable. You focus on the big picture, client relationships, engineering, play to your strengths." It made sense. It really did. I almost signed the document, but something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe it was my father's voice in my head. "Trust your instincts. The good ones reveal themselves in time." I held the watch, felt it tick in my palm. "Let me think about it," I told Derek. He smiled. "Of course. No rush, brother." Katherine barely spoke to me anymore. She was gone most evenings. "Client meetings," she said. "This consulting project is intense." When I asked which client, she got defensive. "I can't discuss it, Rob. Confidentiality. You know how this works." I called her sister in Boston 3 weeks later, just to chat. Casual conversation. "How's Katherine doing?" I asked. "I know she's been visiting you a lot lately." Long pause. "Rob, I haven't seen Katherine in over a year, not since Christmas." I held the watch tighter. The anonymous letter arrived on a Tuesday, plain white envelope, typed address label, postmarked from our own company mailroom. Inside, a single page. Courier font, no signature. It read, "Mr. Chambers, your partner isn't your partner. Your wife isn't at client meetings. Check the security footage from October 12th, 11:47 p.m. Building access logs. Someone who knew your father would want you to know. You deserve the truth." My hands shook as I read it 3 times. October 12th. I pulled up our security system on my computer, scrolled back 4 weeks. 11:47 p.m. The factory should have been empty. It wasn't. 2 people on the main floor. The camera angle showed them near the primary CNC machine, the one that had mysteriously failed 6 weeks ago. I couldn't make out faces clearly, but I could see enough. A woman in athletic wear, a man in a suit, no tie. They were there for 11 minutes, doing something to the machine. Then they left. I checked the access logs. 11:43 p.m., Katherine Chambers, badge. The board is 847. 11:45 p.m., Derek Sullivan, badge, the bus 3. My wife had a badge. I'd given it to her 2 years ago when she started visiting the factory regularly. In case you need to drop something off when I'm not here, I'd said. I stared at the timestamp. Then I looked down at the anonymous letter. The paper had a faint smell. Machine oil, maybe. Like it had been handled by someone on the floor. The letter had one more line at the bottom. Someone who knew your father. George Miller had worked for my father for 30 years. George had been on shift that night. The overnight maintenance schedule proved it. George would have seen them. George had sent this letter. I sat in my office until 2 a.m., holding the watch, listening to it tick. If Katherine was at the factory at midnight with Derek, she wasn't at client meetings. If they were at the CNC machine, they weren't there by accident. If someone who knew my father felt compelled to warn me, something was very wrong. 3 disasters in 8 weeks. No company survives that by accident. I opened my laptop and searched for private investigators in the area. Found one with 15 years of experience. Former FBI, Marcus Reed. Good reviews, discreet. I sent an email at 2:17 a.m. Need surveillance on 2 subjects. Possible affair, possible corporate sabotage. Can you help? The response came at 6:30 a.m. Yes, let's talk. Marcus Reed's office was in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a tax prep service. He was in his 50s, graying hair, methodical eyes, former FBI white-collar crime division. He listened to everything, the business failures, Katherine's distance, Derek's constant presence, the letter, the October 12th footage. What do you think is happening? He asked. I held the watch, felt its weight. I think my wife is having an affair with my business partner. I think they're sabotaging my company. I don't know why. I don't know how deep it goes, but I need to know the truth. And if you're right, if I bring you proof? I didn't have an answer. Marcus wrote notes on a legal pad. Surveillance will take time. 2 subjects, multiple locations. I'll need access to your security system, financial records, anything that shows patterns. This won't be cheap. I don't care about the money. He studied me. What did your father teach you about business? The question surprised me. Loyalty, integrity, that quality matters more than profit. That people remember how you treat them. Smart man? Marcus closed his notebook. I'll start tomorrow. 2 weeks of surveillance. See what we're dealing with. You sure you want to know? I was holding the watch so tightly my knuckles were white. My father's last words to me were, trust your instincts. I ignored my instincts for 2 years. I'm done ignoring them. Marcus nodded. I'll call you when I have something. I walked out into the afternoon sun. The watch ticked steadily in my palm. The PI asked what I'd do if I was right. I had no answer then. But I knew one thing. If they'd been destroying my father's legacy while pretending to protect it, if they'd been planning this while I grieved, time reveals everything, and their time was running out. 2 weeks feels like 2 years when you're waiting for proof that your life is a lie. I went through the motions, showed up at the factory, reviewed production schedules, smiled at employees, came home to a wife who barely looked at me, texted with Derek about quarterly projections. The whole time, Marcus Reed was out there with cameras and recording equipment, watching, documenting, collecting evidence. Katherine asked me once if something was wrong. You seem distant, she said over dinner, one of the rare nights she was actually home. Ethan was upstairs doing homework. I looked at her across the table. This woman I'd married, the mother of my son. I wanted to ask her, where were you on October 12th at 11:47 p.m.? Why is your badge in the access log? Why do you lock your phone? Why haven't you visited your sister in over a year? Instead, I said, just stress, the business. She nodded, satisfied. Went back to her phone. I held the watch under the table and counted the seconds until Marcus called. The call came on day 13. I have video, Marcus said. You need to see this in person. I drove to his office at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. Told Derek I had a vendor meeting. Told Katherine nothing. She wasn't home anyway. Marcus had his laptop ready. Conference room with the blinds drawn, 2 chairs, a box of tissues on the table that I pretended not to see. Before I show you, Marcus said, I want you to understand what you're about to watch. This isn't speculation. This is documentation. 4 separate occasions over the past 2 weeks. Different locations. I have timestamps, GPS coordinates, credit card trails. This is admissible evidence. My throat was dry. Show me. He pressed play on the first video. Hotel parking lot. upscale place downtown, 7 to 23 p.m. timestamp. Katherine's car pulls in. She parks, gets out, walks to the entrance. She's wearing the blue dress I complimented her on that morning. She'd said she had a client dinner. 3 minutes later, Derek's car pulls in. He parks 2 spaces away from hers, gets out, looks around, walks to the same entrance. "That's the Riverside Hotel," Marcus said. They checked in under his name. Room 412. Stayed 2 hours and 17 minutes. He clicked to the next file. Different hotel, different night, same pattern. Katherine arrives first. Derek follows minutes later. 3rd video, 4th video, 4 different nights over 10 days, 4 different hotels, same routine. The affair was real. Marcus paused the footage. "That's the personal betrayal. Now let me show you what they're doing to your business." I thought the affair would be the worst part. I was wrong. Marcus pulled up a different set of files. I followed Derek after he left the hotel on the 3rd night. He didn't go home. He went to a warehouse district in Riverside, met with 2 men in a parking lot. Conversation lasted 12 minutes. I couldn't get audio, but I got photos. He showed me the images. Derek shaking hands with a middle-aged Asian man in an expensive suit. Another man taking notes. They're standing next to a car with diplomatic plates. "I ran the plates," Marcus said. "Company called Pacific Star Industries. It's a subsidiary of a Chinese manufacturing conglomerate. They're your direct competitor on 3 of your biggest contracts." My stomach dropped. "There's more," Marcus continued. He pulled up financial records. Derek's personal account shows wire transfers, 12 payments over the past 18 months, amounts ranging from $15,000 to $40,000, always coded as consulting fees, total of $340,000. I stared at the numbers. "He's selling them something," Marcus said. "Trade secrets probably, client lists, proprietary processes, maybe even sabotaging your bids to help them win contracts." The room felt like it was tilting. Marcus played another video. "This one I pulled from your own security system. You gave me access, remember? I went back further than October 12th. Timestamp, June 8th, 2:47 a.m. Katherine and Derek on the factory floor. This time, the camera angle was better. I could see exactly what they were doing. Derek had the panel open on the main CNC machine. Katherine was holding a flashlight. He was doing something to the wiring, deliberate, methodical. She was watching the door. "That's 2 weeks before your major electrical failure," Marcus said. "The one that cost you the automotive contract." Another video. August 19th, 1:33 a.m. Katherine at the file server in the office, copying files to a USB drive. Derek standing guard. Another video. September 23rd. Derek meeting with the same Chinese representatives, handing them a folder. Another video. October 4th. Katherine and Derek at an upscale restaurant. Wine glasses raised, laughing, her hand on his arm. They looked happy, celebratory. "That dinner was 3 days after your aluminum shipment disaster," Marcus said quietly. "The one that cost you $90,000. I couldn't breathe. Marcus played one more video. His voice was different now, gentler, like he was talking to someone in shock. "This last one," he said, "I need to warn you. It's difficult." The timestamp read October 15th. 3 days after my father's funeral. 3 days after I stood at his grave and promised to protect his legacy. The footage showed the interior of Derek's car, dashboard camera angle, Katherine in the passenger seat, Derek driving. They're talking, relaxed, smiling. Marcus had audio, Katherine's voice. "Your performance at the service was perfect. The way you hugged him, called him brother. He has no idea." Derek's voice. "He's too much like his old man, trusting to a fault. We give it 3 years max. The business will be hemorrhaging money. He'll be desperate. That's when I offer to buy him out. Pennies on the dollar. His father's 60-year legacy, gone in 3. Katherine. "And I file for divorce with the domestic violence case already built. I get the house, custody, spousal support. Clean exit." Derek. "You sure the journal will hold up?" Katherine. "I've been documenting for 6 months. Dates, incidents, emotional abuse, financial control. I've even filed a few police reports. Nothing formal, just building the pattern. His therapist already thinks he's unstable from grief." They both laughed. Derek. "His old man would be ashamed." Katherine. "His old man was a dinosaur. built a company on handshake deals and loyalty. That's why it was so easy. Rob's exactly the same, loyal to a fault, never saw it coming. The video ended. I sat there in Marcus's office, holding the watch so tightly I thought it might break. The ticking was the only sound in the room. "I'm sorry," Marcus said after a long silence. I couldn't speak. The affair hurt. The business sabotage enraged me. But that video, 3 days after burying my father, that broke something I didn't know could break. They'd started planning this at his funeral. While I was grieving, they were celebrating. While I was trying to honor his legacy, they were plotting to destroy it. They called him a dinosaur, said loyalty was a weakness. My father taught me loyalty. He taught me that people remember how you treat them, that integrity matters more than profit, that a handshake from a good man is worth more than any contract. They thought that made us weak, easy targets. Then the PI said, "That's the affair and the sabotage. Now I need to show you something else, something that changes everything." Marcus pulled out a different folder. This one was thicker. I did what you asked. I followed them, documented the affair, tracked the business connection, but I also did something else. I pulled county records, court filings, police reports. Your wife has been busy. He laid out papers on the table, police incident reports, 6 of them, all filed by Katherine Chambers over the past 8 months, all claiming domestic disputes, raised voices, intimidation, financial control, emotional abuse, all withdrawn before any formal investigation. "She's building a pattern," Marcus said. "Each report just vague enough to avoid perjury, just serious enough to create documentation. She never follows through, so you never get questioned. But the reports exist. In a custody hearing or restraining order petition, these create a narrative." My hands were shaking. I've never raised my voice to her. "I know," Marcus said. "That's why she's smart. These reports are all emotional abuse, financial control, intimidation. Nothing physical, nothing that requires evidence. Just her word against yours, except now she has a paper trail." He pulled out another document. "This is the real problem. I found this in the public defender's database. Restraining order petition, already drafted, filed under seal, pending hearing. The hearing is scheduled for next month." I read the document, page after page of allegations, that I'd isolated her from friends and family, controlled the finances, made threats, became unstable after my father's death, that she feared for her safety and the safety of our son. All lies, all carefully constructed lies. "If this restraining order goes through," Marcus said, "you'll be barred from your home, limited access to your son, and here's the kicker. It includes an emergency motion to force you to step down from managing the company's finances pending the divorce proceedings. She's arguing you're too unstable to handle business decisions." Then I understood. The power of attorney Derek kept pushing. The restraining order, the domestic violence pattern. They were going to take everything. The company, my son, my father's legacy. "Once we get the restraining order, he'll have to sell his shares to pay legal fees," Katherine had said on that video. "That's when you buy them for nothing." Marcus watched me process it all. "I have more," he said, "but I think you need a break." I looked down at my father's watch. The engraving, "Time reveals everything." "Dad," I thought, "you were right. Time did reveal everything. It revealed that I married a woman who saw your life's work as something to steal. That I trusted a man who called you a dinosaur at your own funeral. That loyalty, the thing you taught me to value most, made me blind." "No," I said to Marcus. "No break. Show me everything." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Katherine, this stranger wearing my wife's face, and listened to her breathe. She was probably dreaming about hotel rooms and stolen money, and the moment she'd get to play victim in court. Around 2 a.m., I got up, went downstairs to my father's office, sat at his desk, held the watch. I thought about calling Derek, confronting him, asking him why. We'd been friends since college, roommates. I had introduced him to my father, brought him into the business, trusted him with everything. But I knew why. Money, greed. The same reason Katherine had spent 6 months building a fake abuse case. The same reason they'd sabotaged a 60-year-old company instead of building something themselves. Because destroying is easier than creating. Taking is easier than earning. My father had built something real, something that mattered, 50 people depended on this company for their livelihoods, families, mortgages, college tuitions, health care. They weren't just employees. They were people my father had trained, mentored, protected. George Miller, who'd been there 30 years. Linda Chen in accounting, whose daughter was starting college. Jake Morrison on the floor, whose son had cerebral palsy and needed the insurance. 50 families. Katherine and Derek were willing to destroy all of it for money. I opened my laptop and looked at the calendar. The restraining order hearing was in 6 days. Katherine didn't know I knew about it. She'd have the sheriff serve me papers the morning of the hearing. Standard procedure, Marcus had explained. By the time I understood what was happening, I'd be standing in front of a judge with no preparation, no lawyer, no evidence. Her lawyer would present the police reports, the journal, her tearful testimony. I'd look like a monster. The judge would grant the temporary restraining order immediately. Then the real legal warfare would begin. Custody battles, asset freezes, criminal investigations into financial abuse. Derek would swoop in with his power of attorney offer, or worse, a buyout to help me cover legal fees. He'd own the company. Katherine would own the house and custody. My father's legacy, gone. That was the plan. But they had no idea I'd seen the footage. They had no idea Marcus Reed existed. They had no idea I knew about October 12th, the Chinese competitor, the burner phone, the sabotage machines. They thought they were hunting me. They didn't realize the moment I saw proof, everything changed. I wasn't the prey anymore. Then the PI said, "I've been doing this 20 years. I've seen a lot of betrayals, but there's something else here, something bigger than the affair and the sabotage, someone else involved. Give me 3 more days." I had 6 days until the hearing. Marcus had 3 to find whatever else was hidden. The watch ticked in my palm. Time reveals everything. Their time was running out. Day 4 of the second surveillance week, Marcus called again. His voice was different, urgent. "Get to my office, now, and Robert, bring your son." My blood went cold. "Why?" "Just do it. Don't tell Katherine where you're going." I picked Ethan up from school early, told the office I had a doctor's appointment, 10 years old, backpack on, confused about why Dad was acting strange. "Are we in trouble?" he asked in the car. I looked at him in the rearview mirror, my son, brown hair like mine, Katherine's green eyes, smart kid, observant. He'd been quieter lately. I'd noticed but blamed it on my stress, the tension at home. "No, buddy, we're not in trouble. I just need to talk to someone, and I want you with me." At Marcus's office, my son sat in the waiting area with a tablet while Marcus pulled me into the conference room. "Your son found something," Marcus said. "What? I don't understand." "Yesterday, you told me Ethan has been asking questions about why his mom is gone so much, why you and Katherine don't talk anymore. Kids notice things, so I took a chance. I went through your home printer's memory, documents printed in the last 3 months. He pulled out a stack of papers. My stomach dropped. "Your wife has been drafting her domestic violence journal on the home computer, printing practice versions, editing, refining her story. She must have forgotten about printer memory or didn't think it mattered." I read the pages, dated entries going back 8 months. March 15th, he raised his voice again today. I felt scared. April 3rd, he controlled what I could spend money on. I'm afraid to ask for anything. May 22, he threatened to take Ethan if I left. I don't feel safe. Lies, all lies. But they were detailed, specific, convincing. Then I saw the annotations, red pen marks in the margins, coaching notes. Be more specific about the threat. Add emotional detail. Connect to his father's death. Make him seem unstable from grief. "The printer log shows these were printed 3 days ago," Marcus said. "Your son was home alone for an hour after school. Katherine was working late again. He needed to print a school assignment. He saw these pages in the printer tray. He's a smart kid. He read them, and he didn't know what to do." My chest tightened. "Where are they now?" "He hid them in his room, under his mattress. He's been scared, Rob, confused. He knows his mother is writing stories about you hurting her, and he knows they're not true. But he's 10 years old. He doesn't understand why his mother would do that." I sat down hard. My son. My 10-year-old son had been carrying this for 3 days. I need to talk to him, I said. Ethan sat in the conference room chair, small and worried. Marcus gave us privacy. I pulled my chair next to his. Mr. Reed told me you found some papers about me. Ethan nodded, not looking at me. Mom's stories. Can you tell me what you read? He was quiet for a long time. Then, she wrote that you hurt her, that you yell and get angry, that she's scared of you. He finally looked up at me, his eyes wet. But Dad, you never hurt anybody. You don't yell, you just fix things, you fix machines, and you help people, and you're sad sometimes, but you're never mean. My throat closed up. Why is Mom writing stories about you hurting her? Ethan asked. Is it like a book? For her work. I had to tell him something. He deserved truth, but not all of it. Not yet. Not in a way that would hurt him more. Sometimes, I said carefully, grown-ups make mistakes. Sometimes they do things that aren't fair. Your mom, she's making some bad choices right now, but that's not your fault. And it doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Does she love you? God, how do you answer that? I don't think so, buddy. Not anymore. But that's okay. People change. What matters is that you and I love each other, right? He nodded. Then he said something that destroyed me. Are you going to lose the factory, like Grandpa's factory, the one he wanted us to keep? He knew. Of course he knew. Kids hear things, see things. Ethan had been watching me stress about the business for 2 years. He remembered his grandfather. He understood what legacy meant, even if he couldn't name it. I'm going to fight to keep it, I said, no matter what. Your grandfather built something important, and I promised him I'd protect it. That's what Chambers men do. We keep our promises. Ethan reached into his backpack, pulled out a folded stack of papers, the printer pages. I brought these, he said. I thought maybe you need them to show people the stories aren't real. I took the pages from my son's small hands. Evidence, proof, given to me by a 10-year-old who understood justice before he understood betrayal. Thank you, buddy, I whispered. You might have just saved everything Grandpa built. He hugged me. I held him and felt the watch pressing against my ribs from my jacket pocket. 3 generations, 3 Chambers men, 1 promise. Ethan asked me, Dad, why is Mom writing stories about you hurting her? You've never hurt anybody. I had 6 days before the restraining order hearing. Marcus drove us back to my car. I have one more lead to chase, he said. The anonymous letter mentioned someone who knew your father. I want to talk to your senior employees, quietly. Someone sent you that warning for a reason. George Miller, I said. 30 years with the company. My father trusted him completely. Then let's start there. The next morning, I asked George to meet me in my office before the shift started. He came in looking worried. Being called to the boss's office is never comfortable. George was 63. Weathered hands, careful eyes. The kind of man who measured twice and cut once. He'd taught me how to read blueprints when I was 12. Came to my father's funeral and cried quietly in the back row. George, I said, did you send me a letter? His face didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. He sat down slowly. How'd you know? The machine oil smell on the paper. The postmark from inside the building, the phrase, someone who knew your father. That's you. He was quiet for a moment, then, October 12th. I was running the overnight maintenance check. I saw them, Katherine and Derek. I didn't understand it at first, why they'd be here at midnight. Then I saw what Derek was doing to the CNC machine, and I understood. Why didn't you come to me directly? Because I'm an employee, Mr. Chambers. I'm just a machinist. If I accused your wife and your business partner of sabotage, and I was wrong, I'd lose my job, my pension, everything. I've got 2 years until retirement. I couldn't risk it. He looked down at his hands. But I also couldn't stay silent. Your father gave me a job when no one else would. 1994. I'd just gotten out of rehab, no references, no credibility. Every shop in town turned me down. Your father said, I don't care about your past, George. I care about your hands and your word. You got good hands? I said yes. He said, then let's see what you can do. George's voice cracked. He saved my life, Mr. Chambers, taught me everything. When I saw what they were doing to his company, to you, I had to do something. So, I sent the letter. Figured you'd either believe it or ignore it. Either way, my conscience was clear. I pulled out my father's watch, showed him the engraving. Time reveals everything, George read. He smiled sadly. Your father used to say that all the time. Give a man enough time, George, and he'll show you who he really is. The good ones reveal themselves, the bad ones too. Derek and Katherine have been sabotaging this company for 2 years, I said. They're planning to steal it, but I have proof now. I have surveillance footage, financial records, everything. George, I'm going to need help. Witnesses, people who saw things and stayed quiet because they were afraid. George straightened in his chair. You tell me what you need, Mr. Chambers. There's 12 of us on the floor who've noticed things. Equipment failures that don't make sense. Derek accessing systems he shouldn't be in. Katherine showing up at weird hours. We've been comparing notes for months, but we didn't know what to do. I need documentation, access logs, maintenance records, anything that shows the pattern. I've been keeping logs, George said. Personal notes, times, dates, anomalies. I didn't know what I'd do with them, but your father always said, document everything. The truth protects itself if you write it down. He handed me a small notebook from his pocket. 18 months of entries, equipment tampering, suspicious after-hours access, Derek meeting with unknown visitors in the parking lot. There's something else, George said. The CNC machine they sabotaged? I ran a forensic diagnostic last week, found tamper marks on the sensor housing, pulled the access logs from our security system. Katherine's key card was used at 2:17 a.m. the night before the failure. Derek's at 2:19 a.m. Did you preserve the evidence? The sensor housing is in my locker. Tamper marks intact. I was waiting for the right moment to bring it to you. Looks like this is the moment. And I looked at this 63-year-old machinist who'd risked everything to protect a promise made 30 years ago. George, when this is over, you're not just a machinist anymore. You're VP of Operations. He blinked. Mr. Chambers, I don't have a degree. My father built this company with his hands and his word. You've got good hands and you kept your word when it mattered most. That's all the qualification I need. George's eyes got wet. He'd be proud of you. Your father, the way you're fighting for this. I held the watch. He'd be proud of you too. Marcus called that afternoon. I found the burner phone. I was in my car, taking a lunch break in an empty parking lot because I couldn't stand being in the factory pretending everything was normal. Where? Katherine's gym bag. She goes to that upscale place on Market Street 3 times a week, right? Except she doesn't actually work out. She sits in the locker room for 90 minutes, then leaves. I got access to the security footage. She's on her phone the whole time, not her iPhone, a second phone. How did you... I have a contact who works there. She let me into the locker area during Katherine's session today. Found a cheap flip phone hidden in an interior pocket of the gym bag. Took photos of the messages before putting it back. And 847 text messages between 2 contacts saved as K and D, going back 24 months. Robert, it's all here. Every piece of sabotage, every meeting with the Chinese competitor, the entire conspiracy laid out in text form. He sent me screenshots. I read them in my car, hands shaking. D, equipment failure confirmed. Insurance will cover the cost. He's too broken to notice. K, perfect. How much did they pay for the specs? D, $40K. Wired to the consulting account. K, when do we push for the power of attorney? D, after the next disaster. 3 more months of failures, he'll be desperate. K, the journal is almost ready. 17 entries so far. Police reports filed and withdrawn. Pattern established. D, you're brilliant. His old man would be ashamed. K, his old man was a dinosaur. Loyalty and handshakes. That's why this was so easy. Another message dated 3 weeks after my father's funeral. D, funeral went well. He bought every word. Called me brother. K, 3 years max. We take everything. I closed my eyes, sat in my car in an empty parking lot, and felt the watch ticking against my chest. They'd written it all down. Every crime, every betrayal, every calculated piece of destruction. They thought they were untouchable. They thought loyalty made people weak. They thought my father's values, integrity, trust, keeping your word, were outdated, tools for people to exploit. They were wrong. I called Marcus. How many days until the restraining order hearing? 4 days. Do we have enough to prove everything? Robert, we have more than enough. We have video evidence of the affair, financial records of the payoffs, security footage of the sabotage, your son's discovery of the fake journal, George's maintenance logs, and the physical evidence of tampering. And now, text messages detailing the entire conspiracy. This isn't a civil case anymore. This is criminal fraud, industrial espionage, possibly RICO if the Chinese connection goes deep enough. What do? You get a lawyer, a good one. I know someone, criminal defense, but she handles these kinds of cases. Samantha Torres. She's expensive, but she's worth it. I'll send you her info. And then you go to that hearing. You let Katherine present her fake abuse case. You let her lawyer paint you as a monster. And then you present every single piece of evidence we've collected. You destroy her story so completely that the judge has no choice but to dismiss the restraining order and refer the case for criminal investigation. I looked at the watch in my palm, turned it over, read the engraving again. To Robert. Time reveals everything. Dad, I called George. The restraining order hearing is in 4 days. I need you and the floor witnesses ready to testify if needed. Can you do that? We'll be there, Mr. Chambers. I called Samantha Torres. I need a lawyer. I have evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, industrial espionage, and domestic violence fabrication. Can you take the case? Come to my office tomorrow. Bring everything. I sat in my car for another hour, read through the text messages again, looked at the photos of Derek handing folders to Chinese competitors, watched the video of Katherine and Derek laughing 3 days after my father's funeral. One message stood out. Written by Derek 2 months ago, D. His old man would be ashamed he raised such a trusting fool. I closed the watch, held it tight. No, Derek. My father wouldn't be ashamed of me. He taught me to trust people, to believe in loyalty, to build things that matter. Those aren't weaknesses. They're what separate people like him from people like you. My father would be ashamed he ever trusted you. He'd be ashamed he called you a friend. But he'd be proud that I'm fighting back. He'd be proud that George kept his word. He'd be proud that even after being betrayed, I'm still standing. Because Chambers doesn't quit, and loyalty, real loyalty, doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. 4 days until the restraining order hearing, 4 days until they realize their mistake. Time reveals everything. And their time was up. 4 days became 3. 3 became 2. 2 became 1. I spent those days in Samantha Torres' office going through every piece of evidence. She was sharp, former prosecutor, now defense attorney, the kind of lawyer who didn't waste words or time. This is one of the most documented conspiracy cases I've seen outside of federal investigations, she said, spreading the files across her conference table. Surveillance footage, financial records, text messages, physical evidence, witness testimony. They handed you everything. Will it be enough? She looked at me over her reading glasses. Robert, this isn't about enough. This is about overwhelming. When Katherine's lawyer presents her domestic violence case tomorrow, we're going to dismantle it so completely that the judge will have no choice but to dismiss with prejudice and refer for criminal charges. The question isn't whether you'll win. The question is how badly they'll lose. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the guest room. I'd moved out of the master bedroom 3 days ago, told Katherine I needed space to clear my head. She'd seemed relieved. Around 2 a.m., I heard her on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, but the house was quiet. I stood at the top of the stairs and listened. Tomorrow morning, she was saying, the sheriff will serve him papers at 8 a.m. Hearing is at 10. By noon, he'll be out of the house and scrambling to find a lawyer. We'll have full control by end of week. Derek's voice on speaker. And the power of attorney. He'll sign anything to get access to Ethan. That's when you buy him out. 6 months tops. We'll own everything. They laughed. I went back to the guest room, held the watch, listened to it tick, 6 hours until they found out. The sheriff arrived at 8:03 a.m. I was already dressed, suit, tie, my father's watch in my pocket. Katherine was in the kitchen drinking coffee, playing the part of the nervous wife preparing to escape an abusive husband. The knock came. She answered. Looked surprised. Perfect performance. Katherine Chambers, the deputy said. Yes. I'm serving you notice of response to your restraining order petition. Hearing is at 10 a.m., courtroom 4B. Your husband has retained counsel and will be presenting a defense. Her face went blank. What? The deputy handed her the papers and left. Katherine stood in the doorway reading the response. I watched from the stairs, watched her face change from confusion to understanding to something like panic. She looked up at me. You hired a lawyer? I did. Robert, this is just a precaution, for Ethan's safety while we work things out. You don't need to fight this. Yes, I do. Her mask slipped for just a second. I saw the calculation behind her eyes. Then the mask came back. I'm trying to protect our son. If you love him, you won't make this harder than it has to be. I walked down the stairs, stood 3 feet away from her. This woman I'd married, the mother of my son, the person who'd spent 2 years systematically destroying everything my father built. I know about Derek, I said quietly. Her face went still. I know about the hotels, the Chinese competitor, the sabotaged equipment, October 12th at 11:47 p.m., the burner phone, the fake journal, all of it. She didn't move, didn't speak. I'll see you in court, Katherine. I walked out the door, got in my car, drove to the courthouse. The restraining order hearing was in 6 hours. She had no idea what I was about to do. Courtroom 4B, Family Court Division, Judge Andrea Martinez presiding. I sat at the defendant's table with Samantha Torres. Behind us, George Miller and 11 other Chambers Precision employees in the gallery. Marcus Reed was there too, his laptop bag full of evidence files. Katherine sat at the plaintiff's table with her attorney, a woman named Patricia Hollings, mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer who specialized in domestic cases and knew how to play the sympathy card. Derek wasn't there. He didn't know about the hearing. Katherine hadn't told him. After all, he wasn't supposed to be part of the story yet. Judge Martinez entered. We stood. She sat. We sat. This is a petition for emergency restraining order, the judge said, reviewing the file. Mrs. Chambers, you're requesting that your husband be barred from the marital home and granted only supervised visitation with your minor son. These are serious allegations. Ms. Hollings, present your case. Katherine's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client has been living in fear for the past 8 months. The respondent, while not physically violent, has engaged in a pattern of emotional abuse, financial control, and intimidation. Since his father's death 3 years ago, Mr. Chambers has become increasingly unstable. My client has documented multiple incidents. She presented the journal, the fake police reports, a psychological evaluation from a therapist who'd never met me, but had reviewed Katherine's documentation. Katherine took the stand. She wore a conservative dress, minimal makeup, looked small and scared. She testified about my mood swings, my controlling behavior, how I'd threatened to take Ethan if she ever left, how she'd filed police reports but always withdrawn them because she was afraid of making things worse. She was good, really good. Her voice cracked in the right places. She looked at the judge with genuine seeming fear. If I hadn't seen the video of her laughing with Derek 3 days after my father's funeral, I might have believed her myself. Your Honor, Katherine said, her voice shaking, I just want my son to be safe. I just want to be safe. I'm not trying to punish Robert. I'm trying to protect us. Judge Martinez looked at me. Mr. Chambers, you'll have opportunity to respond. Ms. Torres? Samantha stood. Your Honor, we have evidence that directly contradicts every allegation made by Mrs. Chambers. We request permission to present counter-evidence. Proceed. Samantha opened her laptop, connected it to the courtroom display. Your Honor, I'd like to present surveillance footage obtained by licensed private investigator Marcus Reed over the past 3 weeks. The footage documents Mrs. Chambers' activities during the time she claims to have been living in fear of her husband. The first video played. Hotel parking lot. Katherine's car, Derek's car, timestamps, 4 different nights. Mrs. Chambers has been engaged in an extramarital affair with Derek Sullivan, Mr. Chambers' business partner, for approximately 2 years. This is documented across multiple locations. Katherine's face went white. Her lawyer objected. Your Honor, an affair doesn't invalidate. Let her finish, Judge Martinez said, her expression changing. Samantha played the next video. Factory floor. October 12th, 2:17 a.m. Katherine and Derek at the CNC machine. Derek tampering with the equipment. Katherine holding the flashlight. This is Mrs. Chambers and Mr. Sullivan engaged in industrial sabotage at Chambers Precision Manufacturing. The machine they're tampering with failed 2 weeks later, costing the company $200,000 in contracts. We have maintenance logs, access records, and physical evidence. George stood in the gallery, holding up the tampered sensor housing in a clear evidence bag. That corroborates the sabotage. Katherine's lawyer was on her feet. Your Honor, this is completely outside the scope. Sit down, Ms. Hollings, the judge said sharply. I want to see where this goes. Samantha played more footage. Derek meeting with Chinese competitors. Financial records showing wire transfers. Bank statements showing $340,000 in consulting fees, paid to Derek over 18 months. Mr. Sullivan has been selling trade secrets to Chambers Precision's direct competitors, while simultaneously sabotaging the company from within. Mrs. Chambers has been his accomplice, accessing files, copying proprietary information, creating disasters that would force Mr. Chambers to sell the business at a loss. Then Samantha played the video I'd been dreading, the one that would hurt but had to be shown. Derek's car. Dashboard camera. 3 days after my father's funeral, Katherine and Derek's voices filled the courtroom. Your performance at the service was perfect. He has no idea we started this the day his father died. 3 years, Max. We take everything. His old man would be ashamed. His old man was a dinosaur. Loyalty and handshakes. That's why this was so easy. The courtroom was silent. Katherine was staring at the screen, her face completely drained of color. Judge Martinez's expression had gone from neutral to something harder. Continue. Samantha pulled up the text messages from the burner phone, displayed them on the screen. 847 messages detailing the entire conspiracy. Insurance will cover the equipment. He's too broken to notice. The journal is almost ready. 17 entries so far. 3 years, Max. We take everything. Your Honor, Mrs. Chambers has fabricated every allegation in her petition, the journal she presented as evidence. We have printer logs showing it was drafted and edited over several weeks. In fact, Samantha gestured to me. I stood and pulled out the papers Ethan had found, the practice drafts with red pen annotations. Mr. Chambers' 10-year-old son discovered these draft pages in their home printer. They show Mrs. Chambers workshopping her abuse narrative, making it more specific, more convincing. I handed the pages to the bailiff, who gave them to the judge. Judge Martinez read them. Her jaw tightened. Add emotional detail. Make him seem unstable from grief. These are coaching notes in the margins. Yes, Your Honor, Mrs. Chambers has been building this fake domestic violence case for 8 months, with the sole purpose of obtaining a restraining order that would force Mr. Chambers to sell his shares in the family business at a loss. Her affair partner, Mr. Sullivan, would then purchase those shares for a fraction of their value. The end goal was to steal a 60-year-old family company through a combination of sabotage, fraud, and legal manipulation. Katherine's lawyer was whispering urgently to her. Katherine was shaking her head, her hands trembling. Judge Martinez looked at Katherine. Mrs. Chambers, do you want to respond to any of this? Katherine opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She tried again. Those texts are out of context. The videos don't show. Mrs. Chambers, the judge said, her voice cold. I've been on the bench for 17 years. I've seen real abuse cases. I've granted restraining orders that saved lives. What I'm seeing here is systematic fraud, perjury, and conspiracy to commit theft. Ms. Hollings, I strongly suggest your client stop talking. Then Samantha dropped the final bomb. Your Honor, we have one more piece of evidence. We request permission to call Derek Sullivan to the stand. Katherine's head whipped toward the courtroom doors. Derek walked in, flanked by 2 FBI agents. Your Honor, Samantha said, Mr. Sullivan was arrested this morning by federal authorities on charges of theft of trade secrets and conspiracy to defraud. The materials he sold to Pacific Star Industries contained classified aerospace specifications licensed from a Department of Defense contractor. This isn't just corporate espionage. It's a federal crime with national security implications. Derek stood in the aisle, handcuffed, staring at Katherine. The look on his face was pure betrayal, like he'd been ambushed, which he had been. One of the FBI agents approached the bench. Your Honor, we have a warrant for Mrs. Chambers as well. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, accessory to theft of trade secrets. We'd like to take her into custody following this hearing. Judge Martinez looked at Katherine, then at her lawyer, then at the fake journal on her desk. Ms. Hollings, does your client wish to withdraw her petition? Katherine was crying now. Real tears for the first time. But they weren't tears of fear or sadness. They were tears of someone watching their plan disintegrate. Your Honor, her lawyer said quietly, we withdraw the petition. Petition dismissed with prejudice, Judge Martinez said. Mrs. Chambers, I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for potential perjury charges related to your police reports and court filings. Bailiff, release Mrs. Chambers to federal custody. The FBI agents moved forward. Katherine looked at me as they took her arms, not with hatred, not with anger, with confusion, like she couldn't understand how this had happened, how I'd found out, how I'd beaten them. I held up my father's watch, showed her the engraving from across the courtroom. Time reveals everything, I said quietly. They let her out. Derek followed, still in handcuffs. He didn't look at me. Judge Martinez turned to me. Mr. Chambers, I'm granting you emergency full custody of your son. I am also issuing an order protecting your business assets from any claims by Mrs. Chambers pending the outcome of her criminal proceedings. You'll have a full custody hearing in 30 days. But given what I've seen today, I don't anticipate any challenges. I stood. Thank you, Your Honor. She looked at me for a long moment. Your father built something worth protecting. I'm glad you fought for it. Outside the courthouse, George and the other employees were waiting. They'd heard everything. The courtroom doors had been open, and word spreads fast in a small community. George shook my hand. Your father would be proud. He'd be proud of you, too. You kept your word. Marcus Reed appeared with his laptop bag. The FBI wants to interview you about Derek's activities. I told them you'd cooperate fully. Of course. There's something else, Marcus said. Detective Morrison, the one who kept dismissing your wife's police reports without investigation, he's been suspended. Internal Affairs found evidence he was coaching Katherine on how to file reports that wouldn't trigger actual investigations, building the pattern without the scrutiny. I nodded. The corruption had gone deeper than I thought. But it was over now. Samantha Torres came out last. The DA is filing charges. Katherine's looking at wire fraud, conspiracy, and perjury. Derek's federal charges are more serious, 5 to 10 years minimum. The Chinese competitor is under investigation. This is going to be a long legal process, but you're safe. Your company is safe. Your son is safe. I shook her hand. Thank you. You did the hard part, she said. You trusted your instincts. You gathered evidence. You fought back. Most people don't. They accept the restraining order, lose their kids, lose their businesses, and spend years trying to rebuild. You didn't give them that chance. I drove to Ethan's school, picked him up early, told him we needed to talk. In the car, I explained as much as a 10-year-old could understand, that Mom had made very bad choices, that she wouldn't be living with us for a while, that none of it was his fault, that I loved him and would always protect him. He cried. I held him. We sat in the school parking lot for an hour. Is Grandpa's factory safe? He finally asked. Yes, buddy. The factory is safe. Good, he said. Grandpa would want us to keep it. 6 months later. The main floor of Chambers Precision Manufacturing was full of people. 50 employees, everyone who'd stayed through the crisis, their families, some of our longest-standing clients. The mayor had even shown up with a proclamation about local business success stories. Katherine had pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. 18 months in federal prison, 3 years probation. She'd signed away all parental rights in exchange for a reduced sentence. Ethan would see her again someday when he was ready, but for now, he was safe with me. Derek was serving 5 years at a federal facility in Pennsylvania. The FBI investigation had uncovered 17 other companies he'd targeted over the past decade. He'd been running the same sabotage scheme for years. Get hired, gain trust, destroy from within, buy out the wreckage. My father's company had just been his biggest target. Pacific Star Industries was under federal investigation. Several executives had been indicted. The Chinese government had denied any involvement. Detective Morrison had resigned. The police department had apologized publicly and implemented new protocols for domestic violence report handling. And Chambers Precision? We'd survived. The first thing I'd done was promote George to vice president of operations. The second thing was hire 15 new employees, including 3 young engineers who reminded me of myself at their age. The third thing was land the largest contract in company history, a 5-year aerospace supply agreement worth $8.3 million. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. I stood at the front of the room and looked at everyone who'd shown up. George was in the front row, his wife beside him, the other floor workers who'd kept quiet logs and trusted their instincts, clients who'd stuck with us through the chaos. Ethan, standing next to the table with the anniversary cake. My father started this company 60 years ago, I said. He built it on 2 principles, quality work and keeping your word. For 2 years, people tried to destroy what he built. They thought loyalty was a weakness. They thought integrity was outdated. They were wrong. I pulled out the watch, held it up so everyone could see. My father gave me this the day he died. It has an engraving. Time reveals everything. He was right. Time revealed who was trustworthy and who was pretending. Time revealed who would stand up when it mattered. Time revealed that this company, what my father built, was stronger than any scheme to destroy it, because he didn't just build a business. He built a community, and communities protect their own. George stood up, started clapping. The rest of the room joined in. After the celebration wound down, after most people had left, I found Ethan in my father's office, my office, looking at the old photos on the wall, pictures of my grandfather in the original garage workshop, my father in the 80s, shaking hands with the governor, me as a kid, wearing safety goggles too big for my head. "Come here, buddy," I said. We sat at the desk. I pulled out the watch, turned it over, showed him the engraving for the first time. "Time reveals everything," Ethan read slowly. He looked up at me. "What does it mean?" "It means the truth always comes out eventually. Good people show themselves. Bad people show themselves. You can't hide what you really are forever. Time reveals it." "Like with Mom and Derek?" "Yeah, like that." He touched the watch carefully. "Grandpa was smart." "He was. And he wanted you to have this." Ethan's eyes went wide. "Me? You're a Chambers. This watch has been passed down for 3 generations. Your great-grandfather gave it to your grandfather. Your grandfather gave it to me. Now I'm giving it to you." "But I'm only 10. "Your grandfather gave it to me with a promise, that I'd protect what he built, that I'd never quit, even when things got hard. You made me that same promise 6 months ago, remember? In Mr. Reed's office? You said you'd never quit either." Ethan nodded seriously. "So, this is yours now. You don't have to carry it every day. You can keep it somewhere safe. But when you're older, when you need to remember who you are and where you come from, you look at this watch, and you remember, time reveals everything. The truth protects itself. And a Chambers never quits." I placed the watch in his hands. He held it carefully like it was made of glass. "I won't quit, Dad," he said. "I promise." We sat there in my father's office. 3 generations of Chambers men connected by a brass watch and a promise. Outside, the factory floor hummed with the sound of precision machines. 50 employees were heading home to their families. Tomorrow, they'd come back and build things that mattered. Katherine had called my father a dinosaur, said loyalty and handshakes were outdated, that his values made him easy to exploit. She was wrong. My father built something that couldn't be destroyed, not by greed, not by betrayal, not by conspiracy. He built it with integrity, with loyalty, with the understanding that quality matters more than profit and people remember how you treat them. That's what survives. That's what gets passed down. Not just businesses or watches or family names, but values. The belief that doing right matters even when it costs you, that keeping your word defines you, that loyalty, real loyalty, is the strongest foundation you can build on. Ethan held the watch up to his ear, listened to it tick. "It sounds like a heartbeat," he said. "It kind of is," I told him. "Your grandfather's heartbeat, and now yours." We walked out of the office together, through the factory floor, past the machines my father had maintained for 60 years, that I'd protected, that Ethan would inherit someday. The afternoon sun came through the high windows, warm and golden. The machines hummed their steady rhythm. George waved from the floor. Ethan waved back, the watch catching the light in his hand. My father would be proud, not because I won, Not because I destroyed the people who tried to destroy us, but because I fought for what mattered, because I kept my promise, because I understood what he'd been trying to teach me all along. Time reveals everything. The good ones reveal themselves in time. So do the bad ones. And when they reveal themselves, you fight, not with violence or revenge, but with truth, evidence, and the strength that comes from knowing you're protecting something worth protecting. We walked out into the parking lot together, Ethan still holding the watch, both of us heading home to a house that was finally peaceful, to a future that was finally ours. The watch ticked steadily in his hand. Time reveals everything, and time was on our side now.